Good morning, afternoon, or evening, my friends. This is Stephen Whitsitt with Mentalism Apologetics, and we are here to give an answer for the faith that lies within us against the full preterist paradigm. Today, we're going to be doing something just a little bit different. And what that is instead of a direct apologetic to something that somebody else has written and done, we're going to give an answer. On the Facebook page, Full Preterism, A Thing of the Past, Julian Chambers has asked, their discussion is about heaven being home and some other questions about that. And she gives an answer to something that I've said, and we're going to read that in just a minute. And then we're going to go through Revelations 19, 20, 21, and 22. We'll probably break this up into 3 or 4 parts and do a whole lot more explaining easily. I'm hoping that these things don't go more than a half an hour at the most to keep it easy for people. Just to be able to look at it. So the first thing that we'll attack, of course, is Revelations 19 as kind of a backdrop to her question. And so now, let me see something here. Do we have... Okay, we're going to switch over. Here we are. Does that do it? Yep, that does it. Okay, double checking. Here's her question, and here's what we want to look at. And this is what we're going to answer and from her. Julian Chambers states, doesn't the heavenly country, the New Jerusalem, the city of God that places Jesus prepared in his Father's house, come down out of heaven to earth? So here's the New Jerusalem city in heaven, come down to earth. Okay, what does that mean? What's the city? That is the people of God, the church, the body, the bride of Christ. It comes down to earth. Remember that. Doesn't this indicate proximity, nearness, accessibility? No, when it comes down to earth, that means it's here. It's not near, it's not proximate, it is here. The two come together. So the dwelling place of God was opened up by the sacrifice of Christ. When he died, the veil to the most holy place was torn from top to bottom. The Jerusalem temple was a copy of the heavenly tabernacle. Access to the Father's house in heaven was through his torn body and his shed blood. When Jesus ascended into heaven, he prepared a place in his Father's house for his disciples. That's John 5, right? I believe that is. They were chosen by God before, where was it, 13? They were chosen by God before the foundation of the world to be his servants and his ministers, and they were hated, persecuted, and killed for his sake. So now Jesus loved them. And when he ascended to the Father, he prepared a place in heaven for the faithful servants of God. And he said when it was ready, he would come back to take his beloved to be with him in the Father's house in heaven. Now understand, her whole paradigm is this all happened in 70 AD. So everything that she's going to say has got to fit 70 AD. Now this was the city whose maker and builder is God, the heavenly country that Abraham longed for. And God the Son was the builder. In the beginning he made the earth and all that is in it. He made the sun, the moon, the stars, and the galaxies. And when he ascended bodily into heaven, he created a place for the redeemed, a place to call home forever. Yes, that's called the city, but the home itself, that city, does not stay in heaven. See, we read that. It comes out of heaven to earth. There's the key. So they could not follow after him of their own will. It was impossible for them to go where he went until he came for them, until he appeared bodily. And when he appeared, they would appear with him in glory. So what was glory? The glorious creation that he made, the place in his Father's house that he prepared. No, the glorious creation that is being redeemed and talked about in Romans is all of creation itself, the heavens and the earth that is being remade and recreated. So that's the glory of creation. Heaven is not a glorious creation. It's the other realm. It is where God dwells, and that realm, which is not here, physical earth kind of a thing. Two separate places. I can have 12 angels stand behind me, but you'll never see them until God opens your eyes and allows you to see them, but they're in a different realm. So if the New Jerusalem is the place Jesus prepared in the Father's house, and in the vision, the dwelling place of God comes down out of heaven to earth, there you go. Doesn't that confirm the accessibility that was represented by the torn curtain was Jesus when Jesus died? That has nothing to do with accessibility. That has everything to do with the fact that it comes out of heaven to earth and to dwell with man face to face here on this earth. So doesn't that mean that place Jesus prepared in the heavenly realm is united to earth? No. There's still two separate realms. How do we know that? Because I can't see into that realm. I can't see angels, demons, and things like this. I can't see into that realm. So therefore, they have not become united. When they become united, it is all one realm. one place. So the separation is breached. There is nothing to impede the soul being united with God in heaven. Well, that happened at his death. We have to remember that. He didn't have to wait for the new heavens and the earth to arrive or anything else. When somebody died, they went straight to heaven after the resurrection. So in the vision of the New Jerusalem, the heavenly city does not replace the earth. And I never said it ever replaces the earth, or anybody's ever claimed that it replaces the earth. The new heavenly city comes down and lives and becomes and dwells on the earth. Rather, the way from earth to heaven is unimpeded, and the gates of the city are open wide. And see, that's not true. That's what, right now, that's how it is. But thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. There's a uniting of heaven and earth into one realm. To whom are they open? The inhabitants of the earth. Jesus is the way to the Father. Death is the bridge to the heavenly city. To die is to live forever in the paradise of God. And so when the city descends out of heaven, death is swallowed up in victory. Earth and heaven exist side by side, and that's the fallacy. They do not exist side by side. They become united in one place. The heavenly realm is just a breath away. It is unseen, but it is present, and it is unveiled when the things of earth are left behind. And that's the problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to start in Revelations 19 and looking through this. And we're going to point out a few things, and we'll just do 19. The next one, of course, I'll go into 20 and whatever. So here in 19, what did we have? We have a continuation from 18. It's talking about the great city. The prostitute was destroyed. And the smoke from her goes up forever. So 19, it's already talking about that great city is already destroyed. I want you to get that clear. It is still burning. The smoke is going up forever and ever and ever. Right? Now we switch scenes. We're talking about this earthly city was destroyed. The great city was destroyed. Got to remember that. The smoke of her goes up forever. Now we go into heaven. The 24 elders and the 4 living creatures fell down and worshiped God who was seated on the throne. So now this is a vision of what happens in heaven, saying, Amen, hallelujah. And from the throne came a voice saying, Praise our God and all you servants who fear him, small and great. For now comes the marriage supper of the Lamb. So the city is destroyed. The great city. It doesn't say anything else has happened yet. But now it's time for the marriage supper. And second coming hasn't happened, but the marriage supper has happened. So what is the marriage supper? What does that entail? Well, see, the bride and her guests and everything are at her home. The bridegroom is the one who comes. And when he comes, word is sent forward that he's coming, and people will come out of the house, come out of the building they're at. They will meet that bridegroom there, and then they go into the building to celebrate. They go into the home. That is how that marriage is done in a Jewish ceremony. So the bride, the groom arrives, the bride comes out, everybody meets them there, and then they go into the building and they celebrate and have the feast. So that's what he's doing here. He's making that analogy. For the marriage lamb has come, his bride has made herself ready. It was granted her to clothe herself with the fine linen, bright and pure. For the fine linen is the righteous deeds of the saints. So the bride is the saints. I want you to remember that. The bride is the saints. They're the ones. Where are they? Remember, the groom is coming to the bride. You got that? The groom is coming to the bride and where they're at. So where's the church? Here on earth. So the groom is coming down to earth to get his bride and to meet with his bride and to fellowship and everything with his bride. That's the image there. So what we have here in plain English is the, how do you put it, the rapture, the meaning of the air. And I'm going to get into that in just a second. All right, let me just go through here first real quick. So blessed are those who are invited to the marriage supper of the Lamb. These are the true words, and so forth. So what's the next image? So the bride is starting to come. The groom is starting to come. The bride now meets him in the air. And where is he going? He's coming down to this earth. Now the imagery changes. Now he's coming to make war. I saw the heavens open and behold a white horse, one sitting on it, faithful and true. So here's a horse. That means somebody is coming to war. Somebody who comes in peace rides on a donkey, like in the Palm Sunday. He came in riding on a donkey. Here he comes in on a horse to make war. He is clothed and robed and dipped in blood, the name which is called the Word of God. Now, here's the next thing. Now, we're using symbolic language to describe real things. The full preterist has already given up the idea that the real armies that is coming is literal. It's a real battle. It's all literal swords. People died. And according to them, of course, it happened in AD 70. And the city that is being destroyed is Jerusalem. But we already talked about, the chapter starts out with the great city's already been destroyed. But here's the king and the beasts. So the armies are destroyed. And this creates a completely different narrative than Left Behind and everybody else. If the city's been destroyed of the beast all he has is the nations in the world, the armies that followed with him. But the prostitute, the great city, now is destroyed. All he's got is left is the armies that he built up and he controls over the earth. So the armies of heaven, radiant, fire, living, white and pure, following him on white horses, and that's us. Remember, white and pure, a few verses up. Those are the saints. This is backed up in Zechariah 14:4, where he comes with his saints. 1 Thessalonians 3:13, he comes with his saints. And then here in 19, it shows him coming with his saints. And so from his mouth comes a sharp sword, or that means a word of command, a word of judgment that kills, which to strike down the nations. He will rule them with a rod of iron. So how is he ruling over them? The idea is that he's conquering them, that he is the one who is defeating all these nations that have come against him. He is ruling over them. He's conquering on this battlefield. He's the one who is winning. And when he does this, he will be treading out the winepress of the fury. And so this is the wrath of God against this army of the beast and the false prophet, because what did they do? They killed the saints. They're the ones that came against us. They hated him so much. If he couldn't kill Israel, if he can't kill the church, God in heaven, then he's trying to kill all the saints that are here on the earth. And that was his goal to do. Now, then I saw an angel standing in the sun with a loud voice and said, all the birds, come, gather for the great supper of the king's flesh, captains, mighty men, horses and the riders. All these men, both free and slave, both small and great, are going to die. So I saw the beast of the kings of the earth with their armies gathered to make war against him who was sitting on the horse and against his army. Not against Jerusalem. In fact, what? If this is not against Jerusalem, it says that Christ comes down, and we know when he returns it is to Jerusalem. His feet stand on the Mount of Olives. That's where he said he would return and he would come back. Here's our problem, folks. If the armies come down and it says they gather against him who is sitting on the horse, this is not a gathering against Israel to fight against Israel. It's a gathering to get against him who is sitting on the horse and against his armies. Let's go back to 16 real quick. Let me show you something else. The sixth angel poured out his wing. Not the seventh. This is right before the end, right? Poured out a bowl, great rivers, Euphrates, dried up. Kings of the east, beast, the mouth of prophets, these unclean like frogs, for they are demonic spirits, performing signs, go about the king's world, to assemble them for battle on the great day of God the Almighty. They're going to assemble for battle against God. Christ who comes. Behold, I am coming like a thief. See, that language there is used with the second coming. So the great day of God is that second coming. On that day, the kings of the old earth are going to assemble for battle against him. Blessed the one who stays awake, keeping his garments on, that he may not go about naked and seem exposed. Because what happens when he comes, those people meet him. They are dressed, they are ready as the bride, ready for him. And they assembled, here's the key, people, and they assembled them at the place that is Hebrew is called Armageddon. It does not say, and they assembled them at a place in the Hebrew that is called Jerusalem or Israel, in the sense of the temple and all that. It wasn't that. It was against what? In the valley of Armageddon. Now that word Armageddon, let me show you something, people. Interlinear. Armageddon. Come on, baby, you can do faster than that. Okay. Armageddon. Harmageddon. Armageddon. Harmageddon. A mountain of uncertain location. All they know is that it is what? A place. So Har of the Hebrew origin means hill. Mountain, hill, or hill country. Let's go back real quick. Megiddo, Megiddon or Megiddo is a place in Manasseh. I wish I had a map on here that I could show you. The idea is that people, do they have a map? No, I don't see it. Megiddo is miles away. Miles away. It's northeast of Jerusalem. I was just looking at something else there. So that's where it's taken place at, is Megiddo. This battle that takes place. Jesus comes down. The armies gather against Jesus to come against him. Now, in that place called Armageddon. So the hills of Megiddo is where it happens at. Not Jerusalem. You got to remember that. Not Jerusalem. Go back to 19 here real quick. There we go. Whoops. All right. Went back too far here on this thing. Let's go to 19. May it happen. Okay. Back to 17. So now, it says what? Kings and bears with their armies gathered to make war against him who is sitting on the horse and against his army. So against Christ and his saints who came with him. And the beast was captured, and with it the false prophet who in his presence had done all those signs and wonders. And everybody who received the mark of the beast, well, that was literal. And those who worshipped him, these two were thrown alive into the lake of fire that burns with sulfur. So these are two people thrown alive into the lake of fire that burns with sulfur. So this means that these are two real people. They were captured. They were thrown into the lake of fire alive. Not dead, but alive. That language, you can't create some kind of analogy out of that. And here's the problem then, of course. Let's relate to the 70 AD. If Nero, let's just say for the sake of argument, if Nero was the beast, and the false prophet is all Roman armies, so the beast was captured and the false prophet, they were captured and thrown alive into the... Do you see what the problem is there? Nero and the Roman army is the one who won. It was Israel and Jerusalem that lost. So what you're telling me is that in 70 AD, when Jesus came, he and his armies, what you're really saying is he's the beast because he defeated Israel. That's what you're trying to tell me, is that the beast and Jesus are the same thing. But here in this verse, it's Jesus and his saints, the Christians who come back with him, that defeat the beast, that defeat Nero, if that's how you wanted to put it. Do you see the problem with that? That's an inconsistency. You can't do it. You can't say that Jesus came back with his armies and spiritually defeated the beast and the false prophet. Because it says what? Those two that made the mark of the beast and everybody worshiped, these two were thrown alive into the lake of fire that burns with sulfur. If you cannot answer how they were thrown into the lake of fire, how Nero or anybody, because historically there was nobody in the Roman army that lost. All the kings came back in victory. So you have an inconsistency there. You can't spiritualize it. You want to make it literally two armies, but then you want to spiritualize it's Jesus who comes back and defeats the beast. That's not how God ever did it in the Old Testament. When God came down, he did not spiritually defeat an army or allow his people to get defeated and then come back spiritually and defeat the Babylon army. It was a real army that came against Babylon and destroyed her in judgment. So you create too many inconsistencies. All right, I'm going to stop it right there. That's almost a half an hour. We'll come back to Revelations 20 when we return. But I want you to go back and look at that. Look at the verses. Look at them. You got to decide, how in the world were the beast and the false prophet thrown alive into the lake of fire in 70 AD when no king, commander, general of the Roman army ever died, and Titus returned back to Rome. Titus returned back to Rome as the victor over Israel. It just doesn't work. Okay, thank you guys for listening, and be sure to follow up real close. I also wanted to make one other note here. I'm doing this after because I'm not trying to make sales or anything else. The idea is that, yes, I've written the book. You can find it on Kindle. The Kindle version is there, and also the written book is also there. Full Preterism, The Assault on Orthodox Christianity. I've had one person, I think, already misunderstood the title. Go ahead and buy the book. I dare you. But it goes through the pre-mill view. It goes through a lot of these things that I'm going to be talking about here. But here I am dealing with, of course, with the Great White Throne Judgment and those things in the new heavens and the earth as the essential part of this discussion. And so you guys do have a good night, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.